Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright. It's time for some S.H.I.E.L.D. hot potato.
Today we are talking about Minute 104, which begins with Red Skull throwing Cap to the floor of the Valkyrie and ends with Red Skull finally drawing his Hydra pistol. Back on the show, it's Ryanne Bennett. Hello, Ryanne.
Hi. Oh my gosh, is the fighting almost over? Don't tell me it's not so. Tell me it's not so, please.
Don't worry, you have a full week of pugilism. So a lot of hitty hit and a fighty fight. Good times. I'm trying to make that a thing.
There's hitty hit. The problem is it sounds so Christmassy. You got a hitty hit, a hody ho ho.
So you don't think I could take it to the world of boxing?
Well, the Red Skull is red, so you're good. You're on point. It's fine.
Yeah, right. No,
Right.
it's Santa's new thing. Yeah, Red Skull is a Santa minion.
Too bad Cap wasn't wearing green. It could have been like a little like two Christmas elves.
I'll bet he has a green outfit for for the kids.
Yeah, so we're coming into this minute right in the middle of their fight. There's a lot of back and forth as far as who's got the upper hand. It kind of keeps shifting back and forth. And, it plays kind of fun. Red Skull knocks Captain America to the ground. And then, of course, Captain America gets Red Skull in a chokehold and grabs him by his leg. All sorts of fun stuff. It's a minute of fighting. How does it play for the two of you? Do you like the way that things move across the course of this fight as far as, like, the world of fight choreography goes?
Well, I think Ryan's got the corner of the market on Cap fighting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm just playing a minute back right now because I love anytime that's like you grab Red Skull by his leg and then Cap comes back with the shield. And it's just like I said, it's too much super. It's too much super in the scene. I love their like stumbling around, they're hitting into stuff. You get that nice the nose dive of the plane. And they're still like, oh, let's just keep fighting. We're on the ceiling now, but who cares? So I just love it. I mean, it goes back and forth. It looks very much like they're in pain and they don't care because, they both have their own separate missions of who's going to win and who's going to accomplish, what they need to do. So I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoy anytime the fighting continues. So I was here for it.
I love that move where we have the hero shot on the shield, which has been knocked out of Cap's hands, is on the ground, and Cap picks it up and puts it on and then hits Red Skull. And Red Skull does what everyone should have been doing the whole time, which is take the shield. Like, take it away from Captain America. And he does it and hits him back with it. And I love that so much. The shield handoff move is awesome. But I also think this is actually a nice fight to make good on the promise that we've had all along, which is these guys are physically equals, right? Yep. Give or take. That, we talked about this many minutes ago when Red Skull hit Cap for the first time and knocked him down because it was like the first time Cap was feeling a punch, right? Because every time he's hit by anybody else, it's just like, he brushes it off. But now he's being hit by a super soldier peer, and it hurts. So this is the big fight where they're both unleashed. He's not being held back. Nobody's being, guarded or hit. They just get to go at each other. And I actually think in that regard, it's a great fight. They have pent up animosity and rage toward each other, and now they're going to go all out. And it works for me. It's pretty short. I think when the plane actually dives, I think we lose a little bit of the fight momentum. And I could have actually used more of the straight up brawler kind of activity in this minute, like before the plane loses altitude and they get up on the ceiling. And we get Spider Red Skull. Like, I think it's cool, but I could have used a little bit more of the mano a mano brutality.
Yeah, because that happens about almost halfway through this minute. And so, the fighting really starts kind of at the end of the last minute toward the end. And so, yeah, we've had, just over 30 seconds of them fighting before we get to the plane dropping. And I don't know, some of it I wish that, I don't know, I like moments like where Red Skull gets the shield. I wish it had been shot a little clearer, just so it was like there was a little more sense of Red Skull actually having it as a tool that he was wielding there.
Yeah.
And also, I kind of wish that, I mean, because Steve gets it back right away. Like, Red Skull smashes him with it and then like presses him down with it into kind of that cube console before Captain America, headbutts him and takes it back. I don't know. I feel like it could have been interesting if Red Skull actually had retained that a little longer. And actually, I mean, if this film has been designed so much where, we see the shield is an essential part of Captain America as the warrior that he is, wouldn't it have been interesting if Red Skull was using it longer in this fight and Captain America really had to kind of, figure out how to get around the shield to get at Red Skull?
Well, and I would just add, and this is a little bit of a crossover nod. So on the main Next Reel show, Andy and I have just wrapped up recording our series on the Raid movies. And those movies are just extraordinary in the way the exuberance with which they approach fighting, like just physical punchy, hitty, ho, fighting. And the scenes are long and extravagant. And I think I'm a little bit spoiled. So when we get 30 seconds of these guys hitting each other and it's all backlit and a little bit distorted, after watching 5.5 hours of some of the most clear, cogent, logical, brutal fighting that has been put on screen, I feel a little bit spoiled. So I like this, but I think I want more of it because I've seen what they're capable of doing in truly great fight movies. And I think they missed an opportunity here to actually show super soldiers go at each other, even in the auspices of a Marvel movie. I think it doesn't have to be so brutal as the Raid movies, but I think they just could have given us a little bit more.
Do you think that there's an element, the fact that this is still so early in the scope of what Marvel was doing, where they hadn't quite gotten to the point where we see a lot more of what Cap can do in better fights later in the franchise? Do you feel like there's just something that it's still at this point where it's like the budget probably wasn't as high as they get later? Johnston, while I think very competent and strong and creative director, may not be the person to necessarily build like really fantastic and elaborate fight sequences. I mean, do you feel like there's something there?
I also feel this. Yeah, I feel like the skill level isn't where it's going to be, because I feel like in the rest of the films, nobody touches Cap's shield. It's either stuck somewhere or he loses it somewhere. It's never just that little moment where you kind of get it for a little bit. It either flies off and he has to come back and get it later. It's stuck to something and he has to find it, because he's just so fluid with it. He's so comfortable with what it can do and how it lends itself to its power. You love seeing it come flying through the air when you think he doesn't have anything left. So I love the way they kind of show this beginning step of him getting comfortable, trying to figure out what he can do, against a villain like Red Skull, who supposedly just been working on what he can do, and his evilness is in touch with, everything he has. But are you really, sir? Because you're fighting Captain America now. So are you really ready for this battle like you think you are? So I love that back and forth. But yeah, I mean, I would have liked the whole hour more. I just want to see it keep going. I just want to know how they're going to tear each other apart. Like, who really is the strongest if you don't have the plane diving and you don't have the Tesseract, all that kind of stuff intertwined that they mess with.
Right.
Well, and I think to that very point, like I go back to the Winter Soldier, right? The opening sequence on the boat of the Winter Soldier is exactly the kind of fighting I'm talking about. Like, it's extraordinary, wonderful, incorporates lots of martial arts and wire stuff, and it's just really fun bits of that kind of fisticuffs brutality. Mm-hmm. And it demonstrates what's important, to your point, Andy, to the directors, right? Like the Russos, clearly it was important to them to showcase this character, because besides Shang-Chi, like, who else fights in the Marvel Cinematic Universe without some sort of device? This is Cap's gig. Like, he's the punchy punch guy. So let's showcase more of his abilities as a punchy punch guy. But I think it's possible to write that off as he's not there yet. Like, he's still the guy who relies on the shield, and that's who he is at this point in the movie. And he's going against his big boss, and he just doesn't have the capacity that he will in later movies. I think you can. I agree with that case. It's just, this is pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I will say, at least I do like this whole conceit of, when Cap smashes Red Skull into the console and basically effectively, shuts the autopilot down and the whole plane starts dropping. It allows them to actually do something interesting with the fight, and the way that does change as they kind of go into 0G, and the two of them are now like floating up to the ceiling and rolling around on the ceiling, and then I like the bit where Red Skull has to he's holding on to one of the struts, and he's kind of crawling with his hands across the strut as his body's flailing up in the air, trying to get to a position where he can get to the autopilot again. So there is some fun stuff that they're doing here, and clearly it's a different kind of wire work, obviously, but it's creative, and I guess to that end they are trying to incorporate something creative into the fight so that there is a little more to it than just the straight up punching. But again, it's with these two characters essentially being super soldiers, being so strong, I think there is an element to us wanting to have a little more of that,
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So the plane goes into its dive again. As we cut to these exterior shots, we just see clouds, and we see the sun through the huge window, backlighting them a few times. So we know they're kind of heading toward the sun, but we still don't see anything on the land. And I don't know.
Does it bug? High.
Well, does it bug either of you that we can't see anything underneath? Like, it gives us no context as far as, are they over the ocean? Are they over land somewhere? Like, do you feel like that would have helped, or do you feel like it doesn't matter at all as far as putting us into a space where we are?
Me watching it, I didn't care, because I just wanted to make sure, when you don't know, you want to make sure Cap is going to make it through and he has his exit plan and what's next. Because when you see Red Skull pop up, you're like, the guy's still not down. What do you do next? Yeah. So I kind of wasn't thinking about, and then they needed to level the plane out because they both can't go down and crash. So, but I was more thinking about how are they going to get this plane back up? He's doing so many, shooting everybody. He's all over the place. Who's going to bring the plane back? You don't have an actual pilot but yourself. So I was kind of curious about how they were going to turn that upside down. But yeah, I was so in the fight, I didn't even think about that. But now you got me curious. I mean, there is the sunlight there. Where are they headed? Like, nobody's actually steering. They're kind of just floating along to wherever they're going, where he was going. So
I think they get away with a lot because the light is really beautiful, especially outside the plane, right? The sort of orange and blue, the clouds. It's really gorgeous. And I love that we get this full view of the plane. It really puts to rest my questions about where are the propellers? Blah, blah. I don't understand bombs. It really kind of clarifies that because you can actually see where the propellers are and the bombs that have fallen away. And it does make those two engines in the middle look awfully small. Like, really? Those are the two engines that are going to propel this thing once all the bombs are gone? I don't know. Questionable. But I love the ship. I love the shape of the ship, and I think it looks so good. The design of everything in these sequences is so good that it never stops me to question, apart from the question I already had, which is, how did they get so high so fast? It's just all a wash in the punchy punch.
Well, yeah. I mean, remember, we're 5 minutes after takeoff. I mean, they took off at minute 100, and here we are at minute 104.
Yeah. And we're practically in low Earth orbit.
Right. And, clearly already over the ocean. Like, they have had a 5-minute flight or halfway around the world. Like, it's...
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's a little crazy. But, it's the concept of the conceit of the movie that we need to get to this point, and so I guess it is what it is. All right. Well, the plane levels out. Steve crashes down onto the catwalk. He seems a little winded at this point. Like, he takes a minute to kind of get himself up. I guess that just speaks to the brutality of this fight that the two of these have been having. Because Red Skull has time now. He's got the autopilot back on, and he finally pulls his Hydra pistol out, and now he's going to start taking aim at Steve. I will say, I love the lighting at the very end of this minute. Like, if you're looking at 56, 57, somewhere down there, you've got the sun directly ahead as the plane flies, toward it, and you have Red Skull standing there with his gun in silhouette. It's it's beautifully lit, just like the way that they crafted that. I think it's there's a lot of nice lighting throughout this film, and that's one of those moments that highlights it.
Well, and I feel like this goes back to something we talked about in the very beginning of this season, which is just how cool this particular set is, right, for the cockpit of the Valkyrie with those giant windows. And that was something that, if you go back and start at the very beginning, we talk about like what opportunity they have to use these giant windows for great effect. And I think this minute is that showcase, because you're absolutely right. That imperiousness that Red Skull demonstrates in this shot is largely because of he's backlit by this sort of holy light in the sky, that he is the leader on high who is going to deliver unto his minions his judgment. And really goes back to your point a couple of days ago, right, that this is a throne room, and it very much looks like a throne here.
It's interesting that this is a point in the film where I guess you could say the way that everything is set up, Red Skull's here at the head of the plane. He's got his gun out. Captain America has kind of fallen. He seems to be kind of almost defeated. He certainly seems the weaker of the two at this particular point. And it's such natural earth or light from our sun in this moment behind Red Skull. And it's interesting, like, that this is like really kind of his last moment where he has kind of the natural light of the sun in his life as he's about to, things are about to shift for him quite drastically. It's interesting that, I don't know, it's such an earthbound lit moment here. And I wonder if there was some intention with Johnston to make sure that the sun was really included here, because it is essentially our source of so much energy and everything going on here on our planet. But it also is, like, for us here on Earth, it is so earthbound because that's just the sun that keeps us alive here on Earth. And this is a person who is looking for the power of the gods. This is his last moment with that earthbound light.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to be godlike, so they gave him, he wanted his last moment. So give him a little bit of, even though I feel like he's taking it to the absolute limit you can, as, getting his powers, but it's just like, give him his last 5 minutes of fame, so to speak, before it's like, it takes a huge turn there.
Yeah.
Also, are there like Captain America energy bars, like Cap energy bars? What does Captain America need for his energy? I never thought about this for that, because he does a lot of like running, and I'm just wondering if there's like some kind of, what's the best superfood for Captain America? I'm just curious, because he expends a lot of energy as we go throughout these movies.
He just eats a lot of like chia. Everything is like chia.
Everything is chia. I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, so much chia.
I think after this whole film, though, I think he switches to fondue.
Right. That's right. He only just learned about it.
I think he's very excited by the conceit. Really? It's cheese.
It's cheese?
Wow, okay. I like cheese. I'm going to fondue it all now.
Yep.
I can fondue this all day. Oh, geez.
Okay.
All right. Well, so Ryan, something we like to ask our guests when they join us is favorite Captain America moments. Do you have a moment across any of the films or comics or TV shows or wherever that you would say that is like one of your all-time favorite Captain America moments?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but Captain America Civil War, with where you have the face off with Iron Man and Captain America, where he's like holding up the shield, and it's versus Iron Man's like lasers out of his hands or something that he's holding the shield up with. And it's just that extreme power of, because you would think Iron Man has no chance, because it's just robotics and it's kind of his genius behind the suit. It's not like he's really built, like his whole body is built to withstand the impact of Captain America. And I always thought that was just brilliantly, like the way they put that on screen between those two. And then they just always have this, well, who's going to be the leader of this team, and who's really in charge, and who should listen to who? And I always like that dynamic between the both of them.
It should come as no surprise to any of us that it comes down to fighting.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Right. Oh.
I warned you guys already. I mean, you already knew it was coming. I warned you already.
Yes,
well,
you did.
And that's actually a great minute, because it's such an awesome tie-in to like bringing a comic visual to the screen and doing it so perfectly. Right. I mean, that fight scene is full of so many awesome panels that I think it really exemplifies the adaptation, the expertise that goes into the adaptation for those movies.
Yeah. I think inevitably it seems to happen in a lot of these superhero movies where there's two good guys who just have a different viewpoint on things, who can't just talk about it. They have to reason it out with their fists as they sort through it. So that's a perfect example of that. So awesome. Well, Ryanne, tell everybody again where they can track you down out there on the internet.
Yes. So I'm on Twitter at November Bear, Ryanne Ben on Instagram, Black Girl Nerds. Most of the time, all the time when we're doing dragons. Y'all, we just finished that for about the House of the Dragon. If you're into a lot of drama, Handmaid's Tale, that's a wild ride. We just wrapped the recap on that as well. So yeah, any kind of superheroes that you can see, these Funko Pops are crazy behind me, is the world where you can find me. And I am so excited to come back for another minute. I can't believe you guys are putting up with me, but I love to talk about the fight. So this is cool.
Oh, we love it. It's so much fun. Thank you so much, Ryanne. It's been a very fun week. I can't wait to talk about our last minute together, 105 tomorrow. So we'll be back for that. In the meantime, Pete, thanks as always.
Can't believe you put up with me, Andy.
That's tough. Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.